Sarkas, the most feared race in all of Terra. So long you don't live by the sea, or up north, or in Casimirs. But just what makes the Sarkas so scary? Well, they are one of the 2 races in the game to be based entirely on mythical creatures. However, there are far more than just demons. There are a myriad of inspirations and sources to the most misunderstood faction in the game. Hello everyone, Dr. Blob here, and today I want to shed some light in the myth and see the inspiration behind Arknight's Sarkas, both as a way to have some good Halloween-like fun and to honor the amount of work and effort put by the developers in which could be the more important race in the game. I mean, I know you might think they are overused and that they might have overstayed their welcome, especially in Victoria, but we can't deny their impact and importance. After all, they are the original natives of this planet, so let's give them some love for a change. Starting with Imp. Origin: European folklore, particularly in Germanic and later English tradition. Background: mischievous, small goblin-like creatures often associated with dark magic and demons. Unlike powerful demons, imps are typically weak and more pranksters than malevolent beings. Features: imps are known for their small stature, bat-like wings, and impish grins. Redundancy. They are usually mischievous rather than outright evil, and in many stories they cause annoyance rather than harm. While not an actual race, as far as I know, imps clearly were part of the inspiration of regular Sarkas who don't have biceps the size of their heads. We can see the inspiration in characters such as Vigna, Lava, and Hibiscus. Wherever there is a non-combatant Sarkas, odds are it will look like an imp. However, and unlike most of the creatures in this video, imps seem to be the only inspiration to influence Sarkas in a visual manner, as their personality traits are nowhere to be seen. Still, it's thanks to this inspiration that we have Rhodes' very own Rockstar, and I wouldn't like it any other way. Number 2. Revenant. Origin: found in various European legends, especially medieval British and French folklore. Background: an undead being, typically someone who returned from the grave to haunt the living due to an unresolved issue or a violent death. They are different from ghosts as they are corporeal. Features: revenants are often depicted as decaying bodies with a thirst for vengeance. Their motives are usually connected to personal revenge, completing unfinished business, or righting a perceived wrong. Basically zombies, but with ghost-like features. Here we have the first instance of a race with more than one basis for their creations. While Arknight's Revenants seem to share the same basis, the whole corpse thing's nowhere to be seen, which brings us to the second half. Poltergeist. Origin: primarily German folklore. Background: meaning noisy ghost. These spirits are known for causing physical disturbances. Unlike traditional ghosts, poltergeists are notorious for their ability to interact with the physical world, such as moving objects, making noises, or creating order disturbances. They are often associated with intense emotions, and are thought to manifest around specific individuals or locations. Features: invisible entities that cause physical effects, such as loud knocking, object displacement, and spontaneous breaking of objects. As you can see, these are the revenants we see in the story, the souls of Sarkas who managed to keep themselves in the physical world due to strong emotions, and interact with it via possession of objects. While called a sub-race, Revenant seems to be created by every kind of Sarkas, as the lingering wheels manage to bond with an inanimate object and continue existing. However, there are only 3 known examples: the airship, Wizard's guns, and the Tin Man. The latter showing that, even when being able to make peace with themselves, their souls are still bound to this realm, meaning to turn into a Revenant is the ultimate act of rage, anger, or desperation. You have one more chance to right a perceived wrong, but there is no eternal rest after. A Faustian bargain in all of its decadence, and a great interpretation of their myths in the game. Number 3. Vampire. Origin: popularized in Eastern European folklore, especially from countries like Romania and Serbia. Background: undead beings that survive and consuming the life essence, red blood, of the living. Stories of vampires have changed over time, but they often represent fears around death, disease, and the supernatural. Features: pale skin, sharp fangs, immortality, and a vulnerability to sunlight. They are often depicted with hypnotic powers and an aversion to garlic and holy symbols. While the hypnotism was nowhere to be seen in Terra's vampires, everything else is there, albeit with their own original twist. Vampires don't drink blood. They absorb it and control it as a form of life energy, which is perhaps one of the more original takes on vampiric thirst I have seen so far. Some could say the aversion to garlic was omitted, but it is also believed that vampires hate garlic due to their sensitive sense of smell. And what was the sanguinary monk's used insult? How your blood smells. He hates the scent of what he considers impure blood, proving that vampire's sense of smell is also there. While the sanguinary is on the stereotypical side, other vampires prove that they are more than just monsters, and that they can have their own passions and goals, making them perhaps one of the more downgraded versions of the circus inspiration so far, with that one huge exception. Number 4. Banshee. Origin: Irish and Scottish mythology. Background: a spirit or fairy associated with foretelling death. The Banshee's wail is a warning of impending death within the family. Features: usually depicted as a ghostly, wailing woman with long, flowing hair and pale skin. The Banshee can appear as young and beautiful or as an old crone. Crone aside, this is perhaps the most one-to-one example in the whole cast, as their depiction in myth was pretty much kept when adapted into the game. However, there seems to be other myths involved, namely from Irish tradition, as the way they manage their arts, their language, and even the place they seclude into seem to be taken from the Ulster cycle, meaning that the Banshees are standing for Irish mythology as a whole. Also, fun fact, the wings over their heads might be a reference to owls, as those are theorized to be the source of Banshees as a myth. Number 5.
Wendigo.
Origin: indigenous folklore of the Algonquian-speaking tribes in North America. Background: the Wendigo is a cannibalistic spirit associated with the dangers of winter, starvation, and isolation. In some stories, a person becomes a Wendigo if they engage in cannibalism or succumb to insatiable greed. Features: the Wendigo is often depicted as a gaunt, skeletal figure with an insatiable hunger. It might have animalistic features such as antlers or fur, and it symbolizes loss of humanity and uncontrollable appetite. While we have only known one Wendigo so far, I can safely say they are also very similar to the one from myths. Patriot pretty much is exactly as described. However, he doesn't act as he should. Well, that's because Patriot was an anomaly among his kind. He opposed to the acts of cannibalism and unnecessary violence, if there are any left, though they are supposedly fighting demons up north, fitting with their isolationist origins. While I doubt we will ever get another Wendigo in the story, I would love to get to know more of this enigmatic, albeit genuinely terrifying race. Number 6. Gargoyle. Origin: medieval France and Gothic architecture. Background: initially carved stone creatures on buildings designed to channel water away from walls. Over time, they were believed to ward off evil spirits, becoming guardians. Features: gargoyles have monstrous animal-like faces, wings, claws, and grotesque expressions. They often appear perched on buildings and are sometimes said to come to life. A kick-ass cartoon from the late 90s and our beloved rock enthusiast. Those are the only two gargoyles I know of. So what do we get from the myth? Well, other than the physical appearance, though some lore beings imply there are sarcasms with those characteristics, I will say the depiction is very spot on. A mighty being warding off evil. In exchange for the whole being made of stone part, Terran gargoyles have their romantic abilities, either as the typical control over earth and stone, or an innate understanding of architectural principles. So when you see Mordrok talking to dirt, she is actually performing her kind's duties. Number 7. Naxahara. Origin: Germanic folklore. Background: a type of undead or vampire-like creature associated with death and disease. Unlike traditional vampires, the Naxahara doesn't actively hunt, but instead feeds on its living relatives by causing them illness. Features: often depicted as corpses that remain in its grave. though some legends suggest that it can rise at night. While pretty spot on as it is, I believe the Naxxrarer have a second source of inspiration, this being Ghoul. Origin: Arabian folklore. Background: originally depicted as desert-dwelling creatures that lure travelers to their doom. Ghouls are often associated with graveyards and unclean places, where they feed on human flesh, especially corpses. They are sometimes viewed as undead or demonic beings, possessing a monstrous or cadaverous appearance. Features: ghouls are often characterized as solitary creatures with a haunting, unsettling appearance. While both sound pretty similar, the first define them as neutral beings, while the second set them in a more aggressive light. As little as we have seen them in story, Naxxrarer can be both one of the most aggressive units in the battlefield, or as calm and collected as in the few examples we have gotten. Needing to be close to the dead or face physical pain, their existence is both sad and fascinating. The most fitting to receive the title of Reapers in Terra, and a terrifying interpretation of the old myth. Next one is also an amalgam of various sources, the Damatzi, whose name might be of Hebrew origin, meaning likeness, which fits the bill. Regarding their inspirations, we have number 8, Doppelganger. Origin: Germanic folklore. Background: translating to double walker, this creature is a supernatural double of a living person, often seen as an omen of misfortune or death. Features: typically identical in appearance to a specific person, with some variation suggesting they might act in subtly menacing or deceptive ways. Also serving as inspiration we have the Slime. Origin: popular in European and Japanese fantasy folklore. Background: inspired by the idea of sentient ooze and associated with an adaptive, ever-morphing being. Slimes are amorphous, blob-like creatures, no relation, that originated as low-level monsters in game and fantasy worlds, often used as an entry-level enemy. Features: slimes are often semi-transparent, gelatinous creatures that come in various sizes. They can split into a smaller version of themselves and sometimes have acidic qualities. Despite being slow and simple-minded, their adaptability allows them to consume or dissolve objects. Mixing these two, we end with the Damatzi we meet in Victoria, an immortal being constantly copying the appearance of others in order to learn new experiences, yet giving a slightly off vibe to their performance, as if they don't fully get the individual they are impersonating. This being due to their inability to understand mortal minds, and rather living life in a constant flux of imitation, vicarious experiences, and change. The Damatzi is proof that you can make a bunch of unassuming characters and turn them into one of the strongest beings in media. Next, we have one of the most violent dwellers of the sands, the one and only Diablos. Wrong one. 1 second, please. Okay, for real now. Number 9, Diablo. Origin: derived from the Spanish term for devil, with roots in Christian theology. Background: Diablo is often synonymous with the devil. In Christian mythology, he represents ultimate evil, tempting and corrupting humanity. Another name for Lucifer, if you will. Features: depicted as a towering figure with red skin, horns, wings, and a terrifying appearance. He embodies evil, manipulation, and chaos. As we can see, there is absolutely nothing of that in game. Sure, there are only 2 examples to talk about, and the physical characteristics seems to be inspired by them. But the first one had pretty strong reasons to be violent, and the second was literally a warrior. And there is no mention of their Faustian sight, which brings me to believe they thought Diablo sounded cooler than their actual inspiration. Jinn. Origin: Middle Eastern and Islamic folklore. Background: supernatural beings created from smokeless fire. They have free will and can be good, evil, or neutral. They live in a parallel world but can sometimes interact with humans, granting wishes or causing harm. Some myths describe them as shapeshifters who can take on human or animal forms, though they are often invisible to humans. Features: known for their ability to shapeshift and grant wishes, albeit sometimes in twisted or dangerous ways. Jinn are typically described as powerful, unpredictable, and possessing a range of emotions much like humans. Now here we have more of what we see in lore. Beings of fire, we can bring prosperity or downfall to others and yet are invisible to humans. Or at least, Ifrit's one is, bringing the aggressiveness and appearance of the first and the powers and abilities of the second, give us one of the most unique interpretations of demons in this video. Sadly, these do not grant wishes, neither are they voiced by Robin Williams. Number 10. Lig. Origin: Germanic folklore. Background: a sorcerer or necromancer who has achieved immortality by binding their soul to an object, often a phylactery. Think a Horcrux. Liches are typically powerful and dangerous, willing to sacrifice humanity for eternal life. Features: Liches are often skeletal or corpse-like, shrouded in robes with a strong aura of dark magic. They wield immense magical power and control over the undead. That part aside, Liches are very similar to their mythological counterpart, but replacing the whole Hornet King aesthetic for a more contemporary depiction of sorcerers and witches. Being one of the Sarkas who exiled themselves, there is very little known about their abilities, only that they understand special arts like the back of their hands, and that they are directly connected to their phylacteries by the thread on their chest. Perhaps the most peaceful yet powerful race of all Sarkas, the Liches are one of the most modified versions from the original, at least personality-wise. Since they don't have to sell their souls to gain power, they are far more reasonable. However, their power is still on par with their origins, and should not be taken lightly. Now, if only we could get Lessing's sister to join the crew. Speaking of pretty ladies, number 11. Cyclops. Origin: Greek mythology. Background: one-eyed giants associated with raw power and craftsmanship. In Greek myths, they served as blacksmiths to the gods and created Zeus' thunderbolts. Features: Cyclops are large, muscular beings with a single eye in the middle of their forehead. They are known for their brute strength and often inhabit remote islands or mountains. Other than the size, Cyclops share little to nothing with their mythological counterparts, being not so much brutes but rather seers, thanks to their third eye. While there are plenty of creatures in myth with a third eye who can see into the future, these are often related with illumination or divinity, not so much seers and demons. That's why they went with Cyclops instead. Not to mention that there is a depiction of Cyclops being able to see into the future in popular media, thus from the cult classic Krull, where Cyclops were once humans who sold one of their eyes in order to be able to see into the future, only to see the exact moment they will die. This is what I think serves as the main inspiration for Cyclops in Terra, as they can see the future not as a clear vision set in stone, but as a messy possibility which hangs over them as an omen. One can try to stop it, but will end up causing it, or do nothing, and still end there. With the sole exception of Bellarkyn, all Cyclops seem to have given up on fighting their visions. Again, not too like the one seen in the old movie. Which means one thing: someone at Hyperglyph has great taste in movies. Also, the only actual Greek inspiration I could find is how their horns seem to be lightly inspired in bulls rather than demons. Did something. Number 12. Djal. Origin: Islamic eschatology. Background: Al-Dajjal is an end-times figure akin to an anti-messiah who appears as a deceiver. He represents forces of chaos and the antithesis to divine order in Islamic lore. Features: typically depicted as a deceiver with powers of illusion and charisma. Often he has one blind eye and is seen as a dangerous trickster figure. Again, another case of in name only, or at the very least the current iteration of them is nothing like the ones from the myth. As the newest subrace introduced to the player base, there is still very little information regarding this subrace. However, their abilities are surprisingly similar to that of the Black Crown, as it allows them to feel what others feel, and while they are peaceful now, in the past they were depicted as torturers and literal mind flayers, so their bad reputation at least live up to their original one. For now, all I can say is, there is literally a race made for psychology. Heck, Some of them even work as such. There is no excuse to keep psychological treatments at bay. Hypergriff. Number 13. Goliath. Origin: the Bible, specifically the Book of Samuel. Background: a Philistine warrior defeated by the young David. His story symbolized the triumph of faith and cleverness over brute strength. Features: depicted as a towering, heavily armored warrior. Goliath embodies physical strength and intimidation, but is ultimately brought down by agility and wit. Not even classified as a sub-race, Goliaths are mostly used to depict any Sarkas who is built like a brick wall. However, there might have been an explanation for this. As seen with Ursula, Sarkas have a tendency to use the name of previous heroes for their own, and in integrated strategies, there is a boss named the Goliath. While it is implied that this is just a title, it could also be implied that current-day Goliaths are called as such in honor of their hero of old, a denominator for Sarkas who will delve into combat to the extreme. Number 14. Anasa. Origin: Hinduist mythology. Background: Asuras, Rakshas, and Yakshas, beings who either serve as defenders of the natural worlds, warriors of the divine, or downright antagonists to the gods. Features: either shapeshifters without a defined form, or fierce warriors with grotesque features such as dark fang, bulging eyes, and claws. I was unable to decipher where did the name Anasa came from. If you happen to know, please let me know. Regardless, it is clear that they are based in the creatures of Hinduism, with their closeness to the natural world being one-to-one with Yakshas, their physical prowess being similar to the Rakshas, and their closeness to the Sancta make them semi-divine like the Asuras. However, their history is anything like those myths they are based on, as the sub-race seems to be inspired more in history rather than myth, with the Kaifeng use being a more direct inspiration for them. However, with only one character to speak of, the information is very limited, thus this is all we can go with as for now. But the introduction of Anasa gave us the path to another sub-race originally believed to be its own thing, those being number 15, Oni. Origin: Japanese mythology. Background: Oni are typically large, fearsome creatures with immense strength, appearing as humanoid figures with horns, sharp teeth, and sometimes colored skin. They are believed to inhabit the world of the dead or mountainous areas, emerging to terrorize people, steal souls, or act as symbol of disaster and calamity. In Buddhism, they are considered tormentors of evil souls in the afterlife or manifestations of negative human emotions like anger and jealousy. Features: Oni often have a distinct, muscular build, wild hair, horns, and ferocious expressions. Many Oni are intelligent, some possessing shape-shifting abilities, while others can be tricked or outwitted in stories by clever heroes. It is implied that Oni are another Sarka sub-race, having left Castle alongside the Anasa so long ago that there are no records of them ever being part of it. Regarding their physical prowess, it is very similar to that of the Sarkas, though they do not show any of the predilection for Oreopathy, nor the proficiency with arts. If anything, all Oni shown so far are predominantly physically focused, not unlike the Dracos and the Vovia, with some hints of them having a healing factor of sorts. Other than the physical appearance, Oni and Arknights seem to be their own being, and hopefully we can get some proper information once we get a proper event in Higashi. Someday. For last, I wanted to tackle one kind of demons that, while never named as such in-game, I think it provides huge inspirations for some of the more influential figures in Castle history, those being Demon Lord. Origin: across multiple cultures, particularly within European and Asian folklore. Background: powerful demonic rulers, often seen as leaders in a hellish hierarchy. They wield immense dark power, command legions of lesser demons, and represent the epitome of evil. Features: Demon Lords are often depicted with imposing horns, dark armor, or monstrous features. They command respect and fear, symbolizing authority in a chaotic underworld. While popularized by anime and video games, the idea of a Demon Lord is one we can find in multiple myths all over the world. being the sadistic Shutendoji of Japan, the ambitious Ravana from India, or the ever-mischievous trickster Tezcatlipoca from Mesoamerica. The overlord of all things is a figure which has been seen the world over, and obviously, with a race dedicated to demons, there was no way the writing team could leave them out of the narrative. The Lord of Fiends, the King of Sarkas and the most lauded figure in Terran history, clearly owning their existence to the demon lords of old, from conquerors to diplomats to philosophers to warmongers. Each Lord of Fiends leaves its mark on history and in Sarkas culture as a whole, while numerous, we only know the shape of 3 demon lords to date. Teresis, who fits the mold to perfection, Teresa, who tried to go for a more peaceful route yet was feared by Terra, and the current one who also happened to be our leader, boss, and daughter, Amiya, current holder of the title and prophesied to bring an end to Terra. While the narrative points at her being a pacifist, there is the old saying, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's the video. Very in season, if I can say so myself. But what do you think? Do you think there could be other Sarkas surprises out there? Or which other demons to be added to the game? Be sure to add your commentary down below. And be sure to like, share and subscribe. For now, this has been Dr. Blood, wishing you all a great time and a happy Days of the Dead. And as always, stay healthy everyone.